Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So, I would like to talk about the clinical trials and drug trials. So, first thing, clinical trials is an experimental study involving associated with humans. So, compares the benefits of the two or more the treatment methods or between the treatment method and placebo. Okay, so the quality of the study is so, tức là nghiên cứu để cải thiện khi nghiên cứu được phân ngẫu nhiên. So the quality of studies is improved. So when the study is randomized, number one randomized, number two controlled, and number three which is double blinded. What is double blinded? Double blinded stand for which is not only patients but also the doctors, physician. Okay, uh, don't know the patient. Don't know the patient is in the treatment or in the control group. Okay, and how about the triple blinded? Triple blinded when the researchers so analyzing the data additionally blinded. So by the way, what is a blinded? Blinded stand for is not the eyes blinded. It's not patient have an eyes problem or doctor eyes problem or researchers have eye problems. So don't think about like that. This is just land meaning. So blinded here stand for so patients, doctors, or researchers. So they don't know. So they don't know the facts. They don't know which is the patients in the treatment group or in control group. You know, so that stands for blinded. Now the second thing we talk about drug trials. Okay, so drug trials and the drug trial and typical study samples and purpose. So now about the drug trials, when we talk about drug trials, we have different phases. Okay, from phase one, phase one, phase two, and phase three, phase four, something like that. Now talk about phase one. Phase one, keep in mind about some important points here we need to remember. So in the phase one, which is the small numbers of the healthy volunteers. Keep in mind that small numbers of healthy volunteers. First thing, small numbers. Second thing, healthy volunteers. Okay. And the question here is which we need to answer the question which is it safe? First thing which is safe or not. Okay. So we assesses the toxicity and the safety, toxicity and pharmacokinetics. Okay. So keep in mind the first thing is a safe or not, which is safety, and toxicity and pharmacokinetics. And it's a symbol sign which is on the very small numbers of what? Of the patient? No, of the healthy volunteers. Okay, it's a healthy volunteers. Okay. Now the phase number two, which is this is small numbers of the patients of interest. So phase number two, also this is a patient, but a patient of the disease of interest, but with a small number. Okay, so in phase two, we ask and we answer what questions. The question is, so which is does it work or is it effective? Okay, we talk about the efficacy and the optimal doses and side effects. Okay, so phase 2, which does it work? Which we talk about the efficacy, so effective of the drug, right? And optimal dosage, and side effects or not, right? Now the phase number 3. Phase number 3, now it's not small number anymore. These are large numbers of the patients. Okay, and the randomly assigned and randomly this assigned, okay, to the treatment being studied or the best available treatment. So okay, so assign randomly in the treatment. We want to assign all the best available treatment currently, right? Or even in the placebo. Okay, so this one we answer the question is so the new treatment method is good or is better. So which we want to know is the new treatment good or better, right? So that's the question we need to know, is the new treatment is good or better? So they compare the new treatment to the current standard of care, right? The purpose which we compare the new treatment, right, with the standard of care, right, with the current standard of care. So then we see sort of with the new treatment, okay or not, is it good or better? So now we'll talk about phase 4. Phase 4, which is thử nghiệm sao cái đó rồi thị trường nữa mình nhớ. So phase 4, which is with this post market, right? Post marketing surveillance testing of the patient after approval. So this is after marketing, huh? So which is after marketing, and now we see the drug. This is we can maintain in the market for a long time or not, or even something wrong and withdraw the drugs. So this we detect. We try to detect the rare effects or long-term side effects, or may lead to the drug being withdrawn from the market. So okay, that's about the clinical trials and and drug trials. So now let we say we read more about what they're talking about online. So let's say here we'll talk about the clinical trial. So clinical trials. So talk about clinical trials. Clinical trials.gov. I see concept. Understand clinical trials. Clinical trials are 101. Clinical trials need you to find new treatment. Register now. About clinical trial. What about clinical trial here talking about? So, okay, we want to read some information. So, what is a clinical trial? So, let's say from the WeConnectPatients.com. So, allow me to read this one. A clinical trial is the type of research study designed to learn if the investigation drug, device, or produce is safe, how it works in the body, and if it works to treat a specific disease. Investigational means that so regulatory authorities such as the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, in the US or the EMA, which is European Medicines Agency in Europe. So have not yet approved it for use for particular condition, disease, or patient population. So who is involved? Clinical trials for investigational drugs are done in steps or phases. A sponsor is a group who initiates, manages, and funds a clinical trial. This may be about technology or pharmaceutical company, academic medical centers, and other organizations, including government agencies. So Takeda is a sponsor. What's that? Now, phases of clinical research. So, clinical trials for investigational drugs are done in steps or phases. Each clinical phase has a different purpose and helps the study researchers answer specific questions about the drug being tested. So these phases are designed to minimize risk to study participants and also advance clinical research. If an investigational drug fails during any clinical phase, so like we know clinical phase, drug phase, I guess, which is phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. So does not move into the next phase of research. So preclinical trials. Preclinical trials are conducted in the laboratory and evaluate safety and potential effectiveness. If proven to be effective and safe, the investigational drug may move to clinical trials in humans. So again, preclinical trials are conducted in laboratory and evaluate safety, potential effectiveness. Safety, that stands for this is phase 1. Is it safe? Right? We answer the questions. So is it safe? So which is assessed about the safety, toxicity, and pharmacokinetics, things like that. And potential effectiveness, this is a phase 2, which is small number of the patient of the disease of interest, right? So we assess about efficacy and side effects, something like that. Now talk about phase 1. Phase 1 clinical trials evaluate the potential safety profile and possible or likely side effects of an investigational drug in most cases in a small group of healthy people. Right, so they emphasize small numbers, which small group of healthy volunteer, right? Healthy volunteer, healthy people. And phase 1, which evaluate potential safety, right? This safety. And all right here, they say this is a likely side effects. I thought the side effects which is phase 2. But here they mention it's a phase 1. Okay. I thought it's a phase 2. This is in a small numbers of the patients of the disease of interest. Now, phase 2 clinical trials further identity side effects right here. This is a further identify a side effects. Okay. Also, they mention about side effects and risks. So associated with investigational drug and help to determine which doses, optimal doses of the drug works best. So phase 2, which is, we talk about efficacy, right? So effective. So does it work? So is it effective? Right? This is phase 2. So we want to assess about its efficacy and optimal doses, right? So phase 2 clinical trials usually conducted with the large group of people than a phase 1 clinical trial. So what right here, phase 2, we know, phase 2, we know this is small numbers, still small numbers, small group of the patients of the disease of interest. Okay, It could be this a bigger number than the phase one. Phase one, keep in mind that's a healthy volunteers, healthy people. But phase two, which is a patient already, but small number. Okay. Phase three. So phase three is which is clinical trials further evaluates the investigational safety. That belong to phase one. Effectiveness, versus that's effective, which is phase two, and side effects, which is phase two. Well, phase three is still, roll over of these things in an even larger group of people, right? So this one is not just simply people. Like we just studied earlier, they said phase three, this is the last number of the patients, right? So, okay, it says last group of people who have been diagnosed. So there's no medical condition. That stands for patient, right? But they did not mention this just last numbers of patients. So for which the drug is being studied. Phase 3 clinical trials have to confirm the findings of earlier research and may compare the investigational drug to existing approved treatments or to no treatment. So no treatment, which is placebo. So this is phase 3 clinical trials again have to confirm the findings of earlier research and may compare investigational structural existing approved treatments or to no treatment, possibly using the placebo. So placebo here, placebo looks like investigational drug, but does not have an active ingredient. So that's why they call this a placebo. Placebo, they look like it, but it's not. It's not. It's not because it doesn't have an active ingredient. So look like me, but it's not exactly me because it's not have an active ingredient. So it look like a drug, but it's not exactly the drug because they just a placebo, which it doesn't have an active ingredient in there. So if the investigational drug proved to be safe and effective during the phase 3 trials, it is submitted to the FDA or EMA for approval. Now, phase 4. Phase 4 clinical trials refers to ongoing testing of a drug, so that occurs after that drugs have been approved and made available to the public. So, well, when we studied earlier, we say this before, which also we evaluate the rare effects or long-term side effects. It could be something wrong with the drug and then withdraw out of the market. So this one they call phase 4, which is the post-marketing, which is after marketing. But right here they say which is make available to the public. And then most often to evaluate its long-term effectiveness. So anyway, so when we read more and then we feel a little bit, everybody, give a different concept, a little bit, not really different. So let's we read more about something like a Merck right here, the .com. This is a famous one. So allow me to read here. So clinical trials have identified potential new treatments to improve people's health and save lives. Our progress is due in large part to important and tough scientific questions we set out to answer with our trials and collaborations. So, what are clinical trials? Clinical trials are research studies with volunteers designed to learn more about how our bodies respond to potential new medicines or treatments. We are grateful to the thousands of volunteers who participate in our clinical trials, making our research possible. Okay, what clinical trials do and why they are needed. Clinical trials test medicines, vaccines, or medical devices that are in development to see if they are safe and effective. It may take many clinical trials all around the world to understand which treatments work and how they work. So new treatments are tested in clinical trials before government agency can approve them for doctors to prescribe to people. So clinical trials are a key part of the drug development process and our goal to help save and improve lives. Learn more about how our bodies respond to investigational treatments, find new and better ways of advancing science. Now, reasons to consider participating in a clinical trial. Trial participants will learn more about their health condition and take an active role in their own health care, help future patients by advancing medical research. You're never required to join a complete clinical trial volunteer only, and you may lead that. Anyway, so we no need to read that. There are clinical trial in progress, and we don't that. Let's say anything else we need to read. Okay, no. So read something else. So for phase of clinical trials, let's say no, we don't want to read AI mode. Clinical trial. We don't want that. Anyway, we read the 4 phase already, so I think that's about it. So most likely the research on cancer, more clinical trials, low more value study track. Right here, AI say clinical trials are research studies conducted on human participants to evaluate the safety and effectiveness of new medical interventions such as drugs, therapies, or devices. These studies are crucial for advancing medical knowledge and developing new treatments for various diseases. Now, key concepts in clinical trials. Intervention. The specific treatment or procedure being tested in the trial, for example, a new drug, surgical technique, or therapy. Control group. A group of participants who do not receive the intervention being tested. This group serves as a baseline for comparison to assess the intervention's effectiveness. See how many minutes so far? 23 minutes so far. Now, randomization, the process of assigning participants to different treatment groups, including the control group, randomly. This helps to minimize bias and ensure that the groups are comparable. Now, number one, control group. Number two, randomization, right? Randomization, very important. And double-blinded thing. Now, blinding and masking, a technique used to prevent participants and all researchers from knowing who is received intervention or type treatment thing and who is in the control group. Okay, so which is we prevent from knowing something, huh? This helps to reduce the bias related to expectations or knowledge of treatment. Now talk about phases of trials. Clinical trials are typically conducted in phases. So we know these are 4 phases in which in each phase having specific objectives. Phase 1, so remember earlier we said phase 1, which is it safe, right? Small number of healthy volunteers. Let's say here what it say. focuses on safety, yeah, right, and doses of the interventional. Oh, this is doses here as well in the small group of the participants. But earlier we said this is in the small group of the healthy volunteers, right? And is it safe? Which we answer the question, or some factors like safety, right, toxicity or not, or pharmacokinetics, right? This one they say focuses on safety, doses. I thought doses is optimal doses, which is phase 2, but right here phase 1. Intervention in small group participants. So phase 2 evaluates the effectiveness, right? Phase 2, which is the answer question, efficacy, optimal doses, something like that, and side effects. Intervention to further assess safety in the larger group. This they say larger group, not assessing the large number of patients. It's still smaller number of patients. Phase 1, which is a small number of healthy volunteers. Phase 2, which is small numbers of patients of the disease of interest. Now, phase 3 compares intervention to standard treatments in the large group. This is a large number of the patient. So to confirm effectiveness and monitor side effects. So we see, so every books or everywhere, so it could be the change a little bit. Now phase 4 conducted after intervention is approved and available for use to monitor long-term effects, long-term side effects as well, and safety. So then everywhere, every source, they give different information. Anyway, now informed consent. The process of providing potential participants with all the necessary information about the trial, including risk and benefits, so they can make an informed decision about whether to participate. Now talk about ethical considerations. Clinical trials must adhere to strict ethical guidelines to protect the safety and well-being of participants. Now data, talk about detail of the data and so ethical consideration, clinical trial must adhere to strict ethical guidelines to protect the safety and well-being of participants. That's important. Data analysis. Statistical methods are used to analyze data collected during the trial to determine the interventions. Data analysis used to collect during the trial to determine the intervention effectiveness, safety. Now, clinical trial registry, the publicly accessible database where clinical trials are registered, ensuring transparency and accessibility of trial information. Okay, that's about it. Okay. Okay, I think I can stop right here. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. So, thank you. So, see you next time.